Delusion. According to my trusty Google dictionary, delusion is defined as belief or impression that is firmly maintained despite being contradicted by what is generally accepted as reality, typically a symptom or mental disorder. This is the perfect description for 8 to 10% of the American population. Two of the biggest delusionists are occupying the White House. All of us have that friend or that family member who occupies space in the world of delusion. You know the person I'm talking about in your life, the friend who always talks about doing something but never gets past step one, which is the initial idea. I am tired of working for $12 an hour. I am tired of working for someone else. I'm going to start my own YouTube channel and be like you. Oh yeah? Well, what are you going to talk about? I hadn't gotten that far. Months go by, you ask them again, hey, what happened to that YouTube channel that you were going to start? Oh, I changed my mind. I'm going to be a male stripper instead. Growing up, one of my uncles was a drug addict. Like most drug addicts, he struggled to keep a job. It's kind of hard to be on time for work when you spend an hour or two every morning trying to find a vein. We would stop by my pawpaw's house once or twice a month to see him. My uncle, he lived there with him. Every time we stopped by, he had these grandiose plans. I start my new construction job tomorrow. Within 6 months, I'm going to be the foreman making $25 an hour. And every night, my pawpaw went to sleep with his gun under his pillow just in case my uncle came into his room trying to steal something. My uncle lived in a world of delusion. He was occupying a planet the rest of us have never heard of. Another person walking around in a fog living in a delusion is WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. They say that ignorance is bliss. There's a certain level of comfort that comes along when you're completely stupid. When you're young, you have these unrealistic dreams and aspirations. I'm going to be playing in the NBA one day. Dude, you're 5'7" and you didn't make the JV team as a senior. When you're running a business, ignorance is not a luxury that you can afford. Delusion's not a luxury you can afford. When you guys sent me the news yesterday about the possible expansion of the WNBA, the first word that came to my mind was delusion. Expansion? What do you get when you expand a dump? You get a bigger dump. Someone sent me a tweet last week where ESPN was boasting about WNBA ratings. They were claiming that some game averaged around 600,000 viewers on ESPN. But it was the strangest thing. When I went to check the ratings for myself, I couldn't find them. It was like ESPN just invented this number out of thin air. Within the last week, there have been 2 WNBA games broadcast on ABC and CBS. Now, it boggles my fucking mind how these broadcast television networks continue airing this bullshit. I know charity's a tax write-off. I would imagine all the money ABC, CBS lose broadcasting WNBA games gets them a nice write-off at the end of the year. Both of these networks average between 2 to 5 million viewers during the weekend. They report ratings for everything broadcast over the weekend except for the WNBA. For the 4th week in a row, an entire month, WNBA ratings were not reported for games aired on broadcast television. But don't worry, I do have the ratings for the games on ESPN. I kind of feel bad for Major League Baseball. They are trying so hard to be accepted into Club Woke. ESPN, they yank Major League Baseball off the air, but they have no problem finding primetime slots for the Charity Basketball League. Throughout the day, ESPN averages between 300 and 500,000 viewers. When they air the NBA or Major League Baseball in prime time, they usually hit between 1 and 1.5 million. For some reason, executives at ESPN think it's a good idea to air WNBA games in prime time. Tuesday night, 2 exciting charity basketball games dominated cable television for ESPN. The early game featured the defending champions of social justice, the Chicago Shitfucks, against a group of ladies from Phoenix who look like men. 129,000 people decided not to take their melatonin Tuesday night and used the WNBA as a sleep aid instead. The late game featured the Connecticut con artists against the Las Vegas Leah Thomases. 297,000, the least watched program on ESPN on Tuesday. Attendance across the WNBA is rivaling attendance in the NWSL. And you got to remember, the NWSL receives 1/100th of the free media promotion given to the dump. I don't understand the media obsession with the WNBA. Maybe they enjoy spending their free time wallowing in other people's garbage. I don't know. There is one team in the WNBA drawing decent attendance numbers, the Seattle Socialist. In an arena built for 18,000, they are averaging over 10,000 a game, about 60% capacity, which the WNBA defines as a sellout crowd. In the NBA, 60% capacity has teams talking about leaving town. In the WNBA, it means a team only loses a few $100,000 instead of the typical million. If you take out Seattle's number, the other 11 WNBA teams are averaging $4,500 a game. If you look at this league purely from a business perspective, expansion is a word that should not be in their vocabulary. The Athletic, they spoke with someone in the WNBA financial department, and they said the goal right now for each team in the WNBA is to break even. We just need to make a peso. For the love of God, I'm tired of losing money paying for woke welfare. Dear Oak Tree, please influence LeBron James to become a woman so we can turn this dump into a landfill. When you have a business that hasn't turned a profit in 26 years, the discussion should be centered around contraction, not expansion. And to hell with contraction. You haven't turned a profit in 26 years, you should be out of business. But when you're commissioner of the WNBA, you don't live in reality. You live in the world of delusion. And I'm about to show you how delusional Cathy Engelbert is. I might have to start calling her the Duchess of Delusion. The only reason the WNBA is in a position to expand is because they were given $75 million by a combination of woke corporations. And when I say given, that is exactly what I mean. Given woke welfare. KC, these companies now have ownership in the WNBA. This was an investment. When you make an investment, you expect a return. Investors in the WNBA, they don't receive quarterly returns, they receive an invoice. Experts familiar with the WNBA, they estimate the cost for an expansion team to be between $15-20 million. Now, when I saw that number, I thought it seemed high. I was expecting somewhere between $15 and $20. But Cathy Engelbert says that number's far too low. Our league is valued at over $1 billion. A billion? Did you say billion with a B? If you told me the WNBA lost $1 billion, I would believe it. But you expect me to believe this dump is valued at $1 billion? I was confused by that valuation, so I fact-checked the number for myself. The WNBA is actually valued at $475 million, which I also think is far too high. I don't understand a business that's lost hundreds of millions of dollars can hold any value at all. Another area to look at when talking about league expansion is how much value had your current teams gained over the last 10, 15, 20 years. This metric, it can be used to show potential investors how much money you can expect to make in the long term. The New York Yankees, for example, in 2002, the Yankees were valued at $732 million. Right now, they're worth $6 billion. 2003, the Golden State Warriors, they were worth $176 million. Today, $5.6 billion. Now, how much have WNBA franchises grown in value over the last 20 years? It's tough to say because their financials are treated like they're confidential government secrets. The Athletic described the growth of WNBA franchises in the last 20 years as middling growth, which I take to mean they're worth the same today as they were in 2002. I would imagine teams like the Indiana Fever, which draw a strong 1,700 a game, I would imagine that franchise is worth less today than it was 10 years ago. I'll give you some examples of the non-existent growth in the WNBA. 2003, the team in Connecticut entered the WNBA valued at $10 million. 6 years later, in 2009, the Detroit Shock sold for $5 million. Now, I was having trouble doing the math, so I consulted our resident expert in statistics, Mina Kimes. She confirmed for me that is a $5 million decrease in value. She also told me that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL when it's 72 degrees and overcast in September. His center ate a rapino omelet for breakfast, and he is not distracted by his sister Jackie performing his pregame Tutti Frutti dance. In just the past few years, 3 teams in the WNBA have been sold at a price point between $5 and $10 million. Now just think about that for a second. You can't build a 3, 4, 5-story building downtown New Orleans for $10 million. But you can buy a WNBA team. Mark Davis, owner of the Raiders, he bought the Las Vegas Aces last year for $2 million. He collected the pocket change in his couch, went and bought himself a nice dump. $2 million for what the media claims is a professional basketball team. The Las Vegas Aces, they actually sat on the market for 14 months. They couldn't find anyone interested enough to purchase this piece of shit. I guess Mark Davis felt sympathetic. He didn't want the woke welfare cut off for these bums, so he bought them. What I'm trying to explain to you is WNBA teams are literally worthless. Now, of course, Cathy Engelbert claims we should not reference these low figures from the past to evaluate expansion teams. Potential owners should use the numbers that I give them. Yeah, because that's exactly how investment works in the real world. Don't look at historical figures. Don't look at trends. Just take my word for it. This is one high-priced dump that you're about to purchase. I guarantee you. You will never receive a return on your investment. But that's okay. You are giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to players who aren't worth it. Yeah. Cathy Engelbert calls past valuations of WNBA franchises ancient history. Ancient history. Ancient history. Are you out of your fucking mind? Mark Davis bought the dump in Vegas last year, and that's what you call ancient history? I cannot believe Cathy Engelbert is seriously talking about expansion of the WNBA. I am seriously dumbfounded by this stupidity. Your league is paying local television networks for them to broadcast your charity basketball. You're paying them instead of them paying you for your content. Cathy Engelbert claims the WNBA is in a better financial situation than it was 2 or 3 years ago, and the time is now for expansion. The only reason that you are better off financially right now is because you are given sympathy donations by woke corporations. That is it. But like I've told you guys before, sympathy only carries you so far. It only lasts for so long. Eventually, sympathy gives way to the bottom line. The funny thing about investors, they expect a return on their investment. And when I say return, I'm not talking about free tickets to the WNBA finals. You can get free tickets to that bullshit on the street. People will pay you to take the tickets off their hands. Investors expect you to be profitable. The people behind the WNBA, they have been sold a false bill of goods for years. The excuse pushed by the media as the reason the WNBA is an abject failure was the lack of exposure. We don't get enough nationally televised games. We're not talked about enough in the mainstream media. Well, you got your wish. The WNBA is on national television 3 to 4 times a week, and the mainstream media has an unhealthy obsession with this filth. This league has received more exposure, more free media promotion than any other league at its level. How often do you hear the media promote Major League Soccer, the NWSL, NASCAR? You could combine media coverage, all 3 of them, and it still wouldn't reach the level of promotion for the WNBA, the ultimate dump. Yet for some reason, people still aren't watching. For some reason, people still aren't attending games. Like I said before, the financial problems in the WNBA are the symptom to the real problem. At the end of the day, you're an entertainment product that's not entertaining. There's only one way to solve that problem: star players playing high-level basketball. And that's just never going to happen because we already have that product in the market. It's called the NBA. And the WNBA product will never equal the NBA product. You are trying to fill a need in the market that doesn't exist. It's the same reason these minor league football leagues always fail. The need in the market does not exist. But let me know what you think. The WNBA seriously considering expansion. Am I the only one that thinks this is fucking ridiculous? Sound off in the comments below. Let me know. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.